Morning everyone. Today is the third day of Holy Week and I want you to get comfortable. Take a deep breath and close your eyes. You are reclining at the table. With your head towards the table, you tuck a pillow under your left arm. You lean on your arm and straighten your garment. You settle in and become comfortable. You close your eyes for a second and a familiar smell fills the air. Bread. Its clean, slightly sweet fragrance fills the air. Your tummy rumbles. You look around to see if anyone noticed. Nothing. Shoo. You look at the table and before you is a small bowl of dipping sauce. You pick it up and the contents swirl in the bowl. You deeply inhale the smell, pungent and earthy. Your mouth waters. You look up and see Jesus taking his place at the table. In awe of what you have just done, you watch this man closely. This man that you have been following for the past 3 years has just washed your feet. This man you hold in such high regard has just performed one of the humblest acts. But something is wrong. You look at his face, and for a brief moment he pauses, his expression troubled. Very truly I tell you, one of you is going to betray me. Is it I? You hear the words fly out your mouth. This all-knowing Jesus just uttered words that is hard to comprehend. Is it I? You hear the others utter. The same question is on everyone's lips. You see Peter reach out and speak to John, who is reclining next to Jesus. Everything is happening in slow motion. You blink twice. John leans over to Jesus and he whispers something in his ear. Lord, who is it? Jesus sees the confusion and self-doubt that is creeping in. He speaks, his voice commanding silence. It is the one to whom I will give this piece of bread when I have dipped it in the dish. Jesus holds the piece of bread, dips it, and holds it out to Judas, son of Simon Iscariot. You look at Judas. Something is happening to him. His whole demeanor changes. You blink your eyes again. Focus, you hear yourself say. Jesus looks directly at Judas and instructs, what you are about to do, do quickly. You look around at others. Everyone around the table is still confused at these statements. Everyone is trying to figure out what is happening. The atmosphere has shifted from content and peaceful to chaos and confusion in a few minutes. You look up at Judas, who is now standing. He turns with bread in his hand and leaves the room. You see Judas disappear into the night. John's style of writing lends itself to developing a number of contrasting concepts. Love versus hate, life versus death, truth versus falsehood. But the one that comes to the forefront in chapter 13, verses 21 to 30 in Luke, is light versus darkness. The reality of Jesus' human nature is brought before us as his spirit turns from peaceful to troubled, and in straightforward definiteness testifies what he knows. Very truly I tell you, one of you is going to betray me. His confidence is going to be deceived by a man who is tempted by Satan, by a man who is tempted by darkness. The light is going to be betrayed. The light is going to be betrayed by a man persuaded by darkness. The disciples don't doubt the statement, but they start to inquire among themselves, is it I? Amongst asking them for confirmation from one another, do you believe that it's me? Once where there were order and trust among friends and colleagues, chaos sets in. Darkness is cultivating doubt in men who lived in the light. But in verse 26, one of the most courageous acts are witnessed. Jesus doesn't take Judas outside to speak to him. No, Jesus clarifies the matter by acknowledging the man who is going to betray him. He clarifies the matter by giving the betrayer a piece of dipped bread. Knowing that this action will set about the events that will eventually lead to his death, Jesus rises and meets the darkness head on. The light confronts the darkened soul of Judas. But let's just pause there for a moment. In Greek culture, to give a morsel at a meal is a mark of goodwill. Christ, in his human nature, in an act of hope, reaches out to the traitor with one more mark of affection. The bread holds so much more meaning. Jesus and his disciples are a whole. By breaking a piece of bread, Jesus acknowledges the one of his beloved disciples in breaking away from the collective. But Jesus lets go in a controlling manner, acknowledging that this has to be done in order for him to fulfill the prophecy. Further on, we read that Satan entered Judas. Satan had made suggestions to him, and a desire turned into sin, which led to death. But Jesus doesn't shy away. He addresses him and gives him a command. What you are about to do, do it quickly. His words indicate his control. This courageous, loving act takes place, but it will happen as God directs, and not by the determination of Jesus's accusers. The light has authority over darkness. Judas turns on his heel and leaves the room. He went out, and it was night. And it was night. Judas chooses to step out of the light into the darkness. A darkness that has corrupted his soul. In the darkness, you can only stumble. In John's contrasting concept of light versus darkness in these verses, we see that the darkness can tempt men, cultivate doubt in oneself, but in sharp contrast, we also realize that light confronts the darkness head on, and the light has authority over darkness. Jesus' story ends with him resurrected from the dead. There we can certainly and definitely state that light is victorious over the darkness. The good news is that because of this courageous act of defying darkness, those who walk in the light will never ever walk in darkness.